Shalom, Yasharala, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whomever you may be, and wherever you may be, Shalom, Yasharala, Shalom. All right, jumping back into the book of Acts. Picking up at Acts chapter 10. Before we get into it, we're going to read this right here. It says, the whole peninsula between the Alps and the Straits of Messina is called the Italian Peninsula. It says, explanation, the Italian Peninsula extends from the Alps in the north down to the southern tip, where it is separated from Sicily by the Strait of Messina. All right. And the reason why I'm reading that is because in Acts chapter 10 and chapter 11, it moves into the account dealing with Cornelius, which we also get to see a portion of that particular account through the eyes of the Apostle Peter. And so Cornelius was a man of the Italian band, all right, coming from Italy, all right, hailing from Italy, but he was stationed on the coast of the Mediterranean in Caesarea Philippi, okay? So this is what you see here. The country covers about 301,230 square kilometers, of which the peninsula covers 131,275 kilometers. The Italian peninsula is a boot-shaped peninsula jutting from the Alps into the Mediterranean, Adriatic, and Tyrrhenian Sea. All right, so you see this area here is blurry, but it's not really important. All right, so let's jump back over here and get into Acts chapter 1. All right, we went into that word right here, the Italian band. All right, so putting that aside, it says there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. All right, this is Caesarea Philippi. It may pull up because there's two Caesareas, but one of them is on the coast of the Mediterranean, which is known as Caesarea Philippi. This is where he was stationed. Yep, here we go. Caesarea Philippi was situated at the foot of Lebanon. Near the sources. If you don't know where Lebanon is, just go and look. It's on a map, modern day map. It's also on the coast of the Mediterranean. Okay. Where you now have, Lebanon, that I think Lebanon meets the portion is it Gaza? Okay, I'm not sure because you eventually get down there to Ashdod and all those different portions there. But like I said, pull it up on the map. Maps are good. All right, yeah, maps are good. So it says Caesarea Philippi, situated on the foot of Lebanon, near the sources of the Jordan in Galanitis, and formerly called Paneas, but afterward being rebuilt by Philip the Tetrarch, it was called by him Caesarea in honor of Tiberius Caesar. So it gives you a timeline when you look up these Caesars. All right, you had Julius, you had Augustus, then you had Tiberius as the third Roman ruler in that that time period of the Pax Romana. So it says in honor of Tiberius Caesar, subsequently called Neronius by Agrippa II, in honor of Nero, okay, which Nero was further down the line, because after Tiberius, you get, I want to say that was Claudius, then you get Caligula, then you get Nero, all right? Those were 6 feathers on one side and 6 feathers on the opposite side. All right, begin with Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian. 12 Caesars, okay? But these names are not just in here, because these names are actually, for one, they're in here because this is the actual history, but two, it also gives you a timeline. Once again, just going and look up the time period of these men being alive, or the time period of these certain men being in reign, being in rulership, and it kind of draws up a timeline for you, okay? Caesarea, number 2, says Caesarea of Palestine was built near the Mediterranean by Herod the Great on the site of Strabo's Tower, between Joppa and Dora. It was provided with a magnificent harbor and conferred upon it the name of Caesarea in honor, there we go, of Augustus, another Caesar. Julius Augustus. Augustus was the one that reigned the longest. It was like 44, 5, 6 years. All right, 40 some odd years. We know that because the scriptures talk about Tiberius reigning to half the time, and Tiberius reigned about 22, maybe 23 years. All right. So it says, in honor of Augustus, it was the residence of Roman procurators. Procurators are similar to like governors almost. They don't exactly have the same job, but they have jobs that are similar. Okay. It says, and the majority of its inhabitants were Greeks. All right, basically Edomites. But we know that we had Israelites scattered amongst all these different colonies, including the one we're reading about now. But as we go back to the chapter, let's get into this. It says there was a certain man in Caesarea, right, a certain man, not just any old body, a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. Okay. And you know, a band usually dealing with, you know, army of soldiers. Let's see if we can find something here. There you go. A military cohort. Okay. And it breaks all these things down. All right. The Italian band, a military cohort, a 10th part of a legion, about 600 men, example, legionnaires. All right. And if auxiliaries, either 500 or 1,000, a maniple, or the 30th part of a legion. Any band, company, or detachment of soldiers. So you have it basically breaking down the structure and the number of these men. So, you know, certain, you know, a company of men will be called this, certain company of men will be called that. And so we're dealing with this particular regiment that Cornelius was in, which is called the Centurion band. So I guess we'll pull up that word too. Centurion, Hekatontarchis, something like that. An officer in the Roman army, which is straightforward, which is why we also went into the word band there. I don't think there's anything else here. Hecaton, 100. There you go. Hecaton. Hecaton, 100. Okay? As a matter of fact, let's see if it'll actually say that in another. If in Caesarea, where there lived a Roman officer named Cornelius, who was a captain of the Italian regiment. Okay. Let's see what the AMP has for us. Let's see what it says there. All right. Caesarea Maritima. There was a man named Cornelius, a centurion of what was known as the Italian regiment. So it doesn't really specify. Let's try one more. Let's try the NIV. At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. So there you go. Pretty much all the same thing there. All right, centurion. Okay, so like the word century, meaning 100, right? So 100 men. Okay, and once again, we went into the word band. It broke down different factions depending on the number of men that were in this company. All right, so it says a devout man, and this right here is where things ring bells. All right, right up the top at verse 2. All right, because you go into down below in 28. Okay, all right, in verse 28. As a matter of fact, let's just get to it. All right, so I'm gonna make this point first. So it says a devout man. So some may say that this guy was an Edomite simply because it talks about the Italian band, all right, a centurion, a Roman army, and all this, that. The third thing is what I mentioned before. I think a lesson I have uploaded about Sormurian, right? When you hear certain words said, you know, in certain places, you immediately might think of this nation or that nation or an Edomite or whatever. No, you had Israelites that were scattered throughout the four corners. There's so many scriptures that talk about the Israelites being scattered. Letters were written to churches of Israelites, and those churches were scattered in all different provinces under heathen nations, man. And this is no different. Okay, you have Israelites who were a part of the Roman army, and this is one of those particular Israelites, Cornelius. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out here where it says a devout man. Okay. Let's get the word devout. Pious, dutiful, okay? Going into pious. Know what pious means? We're going to pull it up for sake of those that don't know, okay? Because you get the impious when it talks about Esau. So it says devoutly religious, okay? Devoutly religious. Esau is not devoutly religious. Let's go and prove that. Let me get Hebrews chapter 12. Verse 16, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. All right, so Esau is not pious. He's he's the most profane person. Okay, so going back here, a devout man and one that feared the Most High with all his house. Because as we get down below, we know that he has servants in his household. But here's another thing. It says a devout man, which means impious, which means religiously devout, basically to the Most High. And Esau is impious. But then it goes on to say, and one that feared the Most High. And I always like to bring this out when I read that, because it also is another good point to make when you're dealing with Cornelius, to show you that he is an Israelite. Because this is what it says about Esau. Let's start at verse 13. Job 21 and 13. They spend their days in wealth, which are the banking families, the rich, the wealthy, and in a moment go down to the grave. Here's the points, though. Verse 14 and 15, it says, therefore they say unto the Most High, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. Impious, you inglorious bastards. As a movie, my little brother loved that movie. Who played it? No, not Tom Cruise. What's this dude that played Alexander? I forget his name. He played that movie. Inglorious Bastards is a crazy movie. Anyways, it says, therefore they say unto the Most High, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. We don't want to know the law, statutes, commandments. We don't want to know about this. We don't want to know about a dietary law. Okay. We eat blood. We eat raw meat. We don't want to know about these things that you're talking about. Was that not the same thing that Cain was about? See? It says, what is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? But it just said that Cornelius was a devout man. Okay. He was pious. Okay. Highly religious. And he served the most, he feared the Most High power, man. But Esau, as we just read in Hebrews chapter 12 and Job 21, he's impious. He's the exact opposite of what we're explaining here. All right. Just a little key factors to throw in there to show you that this is not an Edomite man. This is an Israelite man. But we have to continue on because there's more elements to this thing. So it says, it says, which gave much alms to the people. All right. Esau doesn't get alms. It just says we desire not the knowledge of his ways. What are alms? Let's go and get the word alms. Mercy, pity, especially as exhibited in giving alms or charity. Okay. Which probably was more than likely money. You see? The benefaction itself, a donation to the poor. You see, a donation to the poor, alms. So he was obviously giving money to other Israelites to help them out because he probably saw, the afflicted poor people. Okay. And remember, he's in Caesarea Philippi. He's of the Italian band, but he was stationed off the coast of the Mediterranean. I'm sorry, actually, he wasn't. Yeah, he was stationed there because I think Peter is in Joppa. Okay, which is just south of that. Okay, so we probably there's no shadow of a doubt that there were Israelites that were living there where Cornelius and his men were stationed. Okay, and he actually lived there. It says of his household. Okay, so and once again he was over 100 men, a centurion. Okay, so it says, and prayed to the Most High always. Going right back to Job 21. Okay? Esau doesn't pray to the Most High. He prays to whatever. Baphomet, Quaz. Okay? So just key elements here, right? Starting off in verse 2 to show you the difference between an Edomite versus who we're reading about Cornelius, an Israelite, who was actually an Israelite foreigner or one that will be called a Gentile. All right? So that's important to keep those things in mind. Verse 3 says, he saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour, being about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, says, of the day, an angel of the Most High coming to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before the Most High. Wait a minute. Okay, and I don't have my Bible in front of me. I didn't open my Bible because I don't have any precepts written in there. So, through the Spirit, we're going to grab what we grab. All right, as we go through this chapter. Let's go over here. Okay, Revelation chapter 8, verse 4. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before the Most High out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. Okay. And so it says this censer, because when we read back to verse 3, it says, and another angel came and stood at the altar. This is what was going on in the heavens. This is what John the Revelator saw. Okay. The tabernacle on the earth was a shadow of what was going on in the heavens. That's why it was told to be made a certain way, fashioned a certain way, measured a certain way, because this is an image of what is in the heavenly realm. And we were blessed to even have that particular knowledge, right? Through men, Moses, David, Solomon. Okay. And even times, after the exile, you had men that come back. Zerubbabel, okay. I think Ezra eventually went back, but he wasn't with the first group, okay. But you have different men, all right, that were set up for different reasons, in reconstructing these things or building them in the first place. But anyways, it says, and another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints twice, right, ascended up before the Most High and out of the angel's hands. And who are the saints? The saints are the Israelites. How do we know that? Let's go and prove it. Let's go to Psalms, is it 148? Verse 13 and 14. Let them praise the name of Yahweh, okay, which is what we just talked about Cornelius doing, and the prayers of you hopeful elect remnant, they go up. So that Revelation 18, all right, referred to you directly, those that are of the household of faith. Your prayers are being heard. When we pray to the Lord to destroy Babylon, deliver up the elect, and so on and so forth, all right, we pray for the brotherhood, all right, thanking the Lord for the truth, for the apostles and things of that nature, okay, those prayers are being heard. Let them praise the name of Yahweh, for his name alone is excellent. His glory is above the earth and heaven. He also exalted the horn of his people, which is possessive, the praise of all his saints. So his people are the saints. Well, who are the saints? Even the children of Israel. A people near unto him praise ye Yahweh. So when we go back, after reading all that, Psalms 148:14, okay, we read Revelation chapter 8, verse 3 and 4, the prayers of the saints. And then you have an individual here by the name of Cornelius who prayed to the Most High always. And we just read earlier, that's not what Esau does. So we truly already wiped out Cornelius being an Edomite or any heathen nation. But we're talking about the Edomites because we're speaking of the Italian band. All right, a centurion of the Roman army. Okay, so let's keep going. Verse 3. He saw in the vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Most High coming to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, The prayers and thine alms, because he gave alms, he helped out the poor, and his prayers, he prayed constantly to the Lord, as we read up above, are come up for a memorial before the Most High, as we just read in Revelation chapter 8. So the water Yahabashimashah for that scripture. All right, and the ones before that, okay? Verse 5 says, and the water Yahabashimashah put his spirit upon me to do this lesson. Okay? Because this is a very controversial chapter. Really, it's not controversial. It's a controversial chapter to these churches, to non-believers and whoever, to these God love everybody's. Okay? It's controversial to them, but not to us. Verse 5 says, and now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter the apostle. All right, let's see if we can pull up the map, because I mentioned Caesarea Philippi and Joppa. Okay, and so if we're able to pull up a map, you'll get to see. And this is why we always tell you, taking after the apostles, learning, teaching. Okay, maps are good. Okay, a place in Palestine, Joppa. Yep. Let's see here, a city. You look, Joppa or Yapa, which is Yapa. All right, which means beautiful. A city of Palestine on the Mediterranean, lying on the border of the tribes of Dan and Ephraim. It was subject to the Jews from the times of the Maccabees. Beautiful. We just ran into that history. It had a famous but dangerous port and carried on a flourishing trade. It is now called Jaffa, a flourishing port. Dangerous port, because it sat on the sea, on the coast of the sea, and carried on a flourishing trade because ships come at sea. Okay. It is now called Jaffa. All right. In modern day Jaffa. So let's see if we can pop Joppa up on. As a matter of fact, let me hit this real quick before we go. It says Yapwa or Yapwa. Okay, same thing there. A town on the southwest coast of Palestine in the territory of Dan became primary port of Jerusalem during reign of Solomon. There we go. We just talked about a port of Jerusalem during reign of Solomon. We know Jerusalem is more eastward. Okay, it's not, Jerusalem is most definitely not on a port. Okay, it's just saying that this city was used as a port. Obviously a lot of goods were going into Jerusalem from this city here. So let's see if we can find what we're looking for, which is a map. There's Joppa with let me see if we can find it. There we go. That's what we're talking about. See, check this out. Caesarea. This is where Cornelius is stationed. All right there. Caesarea Philippi. Okay. Right there, that red line above that. I'm trying to zoom back out. This thing. Just want to act foolish. Let me see if I can back up. Act like a donkey. There we go. All right. So right there at that red line, I believe is where Lebanon, above that red line is where Lebanon starts. Modern day Lebanon starts. Or it could be further below. Not sure. Like I said, you can pull up a map on your own time to pull that up. I don't think we have I think all these maps are ancient maps here that we're looking at. All good maps though. So you see Caesarea Philippi. Lydda was mentioned recently. So Lydda's right there, southeast of Joppa. Joppa is where the Apostle Peter is, chilling out with Simon the Tanner, a person who basically, it takes the hides of an animal, and I don't know, maybe he was making leather belts or something like that. A tanner. You can go look up a tanner. It's not something complicated. So that's where they were on this coast, and Cornelius and his household, and those men, well, maybe not all the men were in his household, but he had 100 men under him, being a centurion. But anyways, the point being, he was here in Caesarea Philippi. So you see this area, all right, Samaria, Jerusalem, okay? So this is Judea, ancient Judea right here. Beautiful, beautiful. Do I have this map? And I'm in my other device, so I'm definitely going to put it in there because this is the device that I keep all my maps and stuff like that in. I might already have it. Who knows? Because I keep a lot of maps here and there. So there you go. And then what do we say? Off the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. So we're putting these things together by just searching them out, all right? And it brings more life and understanding to the account as we continue to read forward. And look, there's a beautiful, you see, looking like a port, Joppa, you see? And Caesarea Philippi, all right, was also on the coast of the Mediterranean. Capernaum, Decapolis, Perea. Did we go back? Okay, here we go. Let's get back into it. So going back, here we go. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon whose surname was Peter. All right. And this guy, Simon, that was a tanner, he was probably sending whatever he was making, to make money in Jerusalem, in trade or whatever. Okay, possibly. Who knows? Okay, but it was a port city. All right. So we're getting into the account here. It says, and now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon whose surname is Peter. So Cornelius was visited by an angel with the vision. All right. And so now he's sending men further south, as we just saw on the map, to go and find the Apostle Peter, who was chilling out with Simon the Tanner. So verse 6 says he lodged with one Simon the Tanner. There it is right there. All right. And there's the word Tanner. We're not going to get into it. Just see if we can pull up something real quick. Okay, a Tanner. So, yeah. Just check it out yourself. It's not complicated. All right. It says, whose house is by the seaside. There you go. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do, which is why maps are good, because it says he's by the seaside. So you know that, well, he's next to a body of water. Well, let me pull up a map so I can find out what body of water this is. And we just fleshed that out. It was the Mediterranean. We saw exactly where it was on the map. All right. So it gives you further understanding. It brings the account more to life. Verse 7 says, and when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called two of his household servants, which is what we just mentioned, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And these men were Israelites, okay? Especially, we know for a fact, well, all these men were Israelites, but we know for a fact the one that was called a soldier was an Israelite, because it also says that he was a devout soldier. He was devout, meaning what? Pious. Religious. And if he was under Cornelius in his household, he was most definitely worshiping the Most High Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shah, because Cornelius, being a pious man himself, would not stood for another God in his household of all things. Okay, as for me and my house, is what Joshua said, we will serve the Lord. So Cornelius wouldn't have flew for that. So we know this man that was a soldier, and check out what the word soldier goes into, which is beautiful. It says a common soldier, but it also says metaphorically a champion of the cause of the Messiah, a devout soldier. Okay, so we get the physical side of it and we get the spiritual side of it. So we know this man was an Israelite, and then he had service in his household, and I believe that they were Israelites. As we read on, that gets to flesh out more, but we know for a fact that that soldier in particular was an Israelite. Okay, verse 8 says, and when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. All right, when he told them everything that he just had in this vision, He sent them with the mission: go to Joppa, find the Apostle Peter, who should be residing with a man named Simon the Tanner. All right. It says, and when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to John. Lord willing, that you're being edified. Hopefully, I'm kind of breaking it down in a in a simple way here. I know I sound excited, but this is it's a good chapter, right? Which carries on to chapter 11, but we got to get there. So verse 9 says, on the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, which is about 12 noon. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So he was hungry, and some food was being prepared, but while they were preparing the food, he was so hungry, all right, waiting, okay, that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him to throw him into a trance. Let's see what trance goes into. Okay, and this is where Cornelius and Peter comes to be connected spiritually, but physically they're going to actually meet up. Okay. It says, a throwing of the mind out of its normal state, alienation of mind, whether such as makes a lunatic or that of a man who by some subtle emotion is transported as it were out of himself. Heathens try to use that and call it astral projection. So that in this rapt condition, I believe it's short for rapture, right? Rapt condition, okay? Although he is awake, rapt is short for rapture, okay? But we know that's not what the scriptures deal with. Look, having been carried away bodily or transported to heaven. You see, that's the rapture, okay? Rapture is what the churches talk about. But that ain't it, though, okay? So just fleshing that out real quick. So it says, although he is awake, his mind is drawn off from all surrounding objects and wholly fixed on things divine, that he sees nothing but the forms and images lying within, and thinks that he perceives with his bodily eyes and ears reality shown him by the Most High. And that's what happened to Peter there, that last portion there. Amazement, the state of one, either owing to the importance or the novelty of an event, is thrown into a state of blended fear and wonderment. All right. So Peter was taken into a trance. All right. Verse 11 says, and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. And this is where the churches jump in. Okay. And they'll read, a few verses down, all right? But they won't read all the account because they want to equate it to food, that you can eat whatever you want. And they have no idea what they're talking about because it has nothing to do with food. They're always showing him a vision of unclean foods. He's probably seen a monkey and a giraffe and a gorilla and whatever else, things you're not supposed to eat. But he was seeing those things for a reason, because those things were symbolic of the Gentile Israelites, okay? Now, a key thing that I want to point out here, where it says a certain vessel. Okay, we get the word vessel here. All right, and what shows up? A man of quality, a chosen instrument, which is what we mentioned as we went into the last chapter in Acts chapter 9, I believe it was, where we talked about Saul. Okay, Paul, whose name was Saul at the time. He was what? A chosen vessel by the Most High, a man of quality, a chosen instrument. And it's Peter receiving a vision. All right, which the vision is according to Cornelius, who's also a man of quality and a chosen instrument, who received the same vision. Okay, probably at the same time, but no, actually, if it was the same day, then that means Peter received the vision first, because the vision came upon Cornelius at around 3:00 in the afternoon, and here it talks about Peter around 12. So if this was in the same day, Peter had the vision first, and then Cornelius had the vision. Either way, they had the same vision. And this is what I've just mentioned. This is where they intertwine spiritually with the accounts, but physically they're actually going to meet up. So that's important to point out here. A man of quality, a chosen instrument. Okay, so let's go back. So it says, a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. Okay, basically telling him in the spirit to accept this, not accept unclean foods, but to accept the Gentiles. Okay, and this runs deep. This is very, very important, because we know for a fact, because Paul comes back into play at some point. Paul's ultimate mission was to go to the Gentiles. That was the bulk of his mission. But it first started with Peter, all right, beginning with the bringing in of Cornelius, okay? And rightfully so, because Peter is the head of the church, okay? Peter was a very known apostle, all right? And so if Peter is saying, hey, we could deal with the Gentiles now, I saw it in the vision, even though it was animals and whatever, unclean beasts or whatever, okay? This in the spirit was talking about those Gentiles. And why was it such a fuss? Because you have to have the history, okay? Because the history will tell you that the Jews of Judea had a great, anger and tension between those Jews that were scattered into these other areas, because they are descendants of those Israelites who forsook the Holy Covenant. So they did not grow up in the ways and the customs and under the laws. You see? So they had a tense hatred. And that's why it was so many fights and so much persecution breaking out over this when Paul was teaching about the Gentiles coming into the fold. Because they was like, hell no, these guys ain't Israelites. Which, of course, they knew they were Israelites. But they were calling them, they were saying that they're not Israelites and saying that they were Gentiles because of what we just mentioned. The history behind it has nothing to do with this is a family matter, because family matters, all right? So it says, and there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And it's important to go into these words, especially common, all right? Because we're talking about men, a chosen man, of instrument, right? So unclean here says not cleansed, unclean. In a ceremonial sense, that which must be abstained from according to the Levitical law. That's talking about food. In a moral sense, unclean in thought and life. That's people, you see? Gentiles who were morally unclean because they weren't following the customs and the laws and things of that nature. But according to Acts chapter 13 is a good example. What they did have is faith. When they heard the word that they could be called back into the truth, they believed it through their faith. And so they were accepted. So their faith, as the scripture say, their faith made them whole, right? Those are Yahushua's words, okay? But the Jews of Judea, they weren't going for it because they were being too carnal about the thing. They didn't want to believe, especially because they were teaching them of Yahushua. So they didn't want to believe that these Gentiles could be a part, right? These are Israelites who forsook the Holy Covenant. They don't grow up in the ways. No, they'll never be accepted. They'll never come into the temple and blah, 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 this and that. You see the tension there? So that's why the history is so important, because it runs very, very deep, man. And this is what the churches do. They mark out all the history. Actually, a lot of them don't even know about the history. They just think they're going to jump into the New Testament and pull out Gentiles, and they got the Israelites in the headlock. No, man. You got to bring out the history. All right? Understand, is that what thou readest? Okay, so it says, but Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Oh, did we get the word common? I don't think we did. Let's get the word common real quick. Koinos, so it says common, right? An example, ordinary, belonging to generality. Look, by the Jews, unhallowed, profane, Levitically unclean, which is also talking about food. But that's why we go into all those other words, because it shows you that we're talking about people here. Peter saw the vision of unclean food, but that was simply what he saw in the vision. But it was symbolic of the Israelite foreigners, these Gentiles here. Okay, but we got to keep reading. Verse 15 says, and the voice spake unto him again the second time, what the Most High had cleansed, that call not thou common. Being what? The Gentiles, the Israelites, okay, being pardoned for, their heathenistic ways, what they were doing, okay, and being able to come into the fold, all right? Turn away from your heathenistic ways and things that you're doing and come into the fold, okay? As a matter of fact, we don't have to get it. Let's pull up cleanse, though, real quick. To make clean, cleanse from physical stains, dirts. Look, here we go. To free, look, in a moral sense, number 2, in a moral sense, to free from defilement of sin and from fault. Who can sin against the Lord? Israelites. Why is that? Because the law was given to the Israelites, and that is how we were connected to the Lord and were given his name. Okay? So the only ones who could be forgiven for sins, for sinning against the Lord, which was by breaking the commandments, breaking the laws and things of that nature, are Israelites. Okay? To purify from wickedness. A perfect example, we always mention Isaiah 55, all right, verse 6 and 7. When it says, let the wicked forsake his way, it's talking about wicked Israelites, not just anybody out there. Wicked Israelites, forsake your way and turn back to the Lord. To free from guilt of sin, to purify, which is only for Israelites. To consecrate by cleansing or purifying, to consecrate, dedicate, to pronounce clean in a Levitical sense. You see? And so it says, the voice spake unto him again the second time, with the Most High cleansed that call not thou common. This was done thrice, meaning 3 times. And the vessel, remember we got into that word vessel, was received up again into heaven. That's why I say it's important to pull up that word vessel, because it says what here? A man of quality, a chosen instrument. And that's what we're dealing with here. Israelites, foreigners, Gentiles, okay? Who were being called heathens and Gentiles. Okay? So we back up. All right. So backing up to verse 17. Acts 10 and 17. It says, now while Peter doubted himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, you see, he doubted himself because he saw animals, unclean beasts. And you have 3 times, okay, in the vision, being told to rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter like, not so, my Lord, I've never eaten this. I ain't never eaten no pork chops. Okay, no hog maws. Lord, I ain't never ate no giraffe neck. What are you talking about? Gorilla knuckles? I don't know about that one. So Peter doubted what it meant. So like, wait a minute. This can't be talking about unclean foods, because he knew the law. He understood the law. Being the dietary law in specific that I'm talking about. So he doubted. It was like, wait a minute. This got to be something deeper than that. And there was, because it wasn't about food. So it says, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gates. So it jumps back to the servants, all right, that Cornelius sent. So around this time, they came there. They're here in Joppa now, looking for Simon Tanner's house so they could find the apostle Peter. Verse 18 says, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. Okay, while Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek thee. So Peter was there pondering, man. Okay, like, man, what is this, man? What the hell could this mean? And the Spirit spoke to him again. Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise, therefore, and get thee down, and go with them. What? Here's very key. It says, doubting nothing. Because these men were also Gentiles, man. These men were seen as heathens. These were Israelite foreigners. And so you have three, and we know that those Jews in Judea had no dealings with those Gentile Israelites. But you have 3 Gentile Israelites coming to Simon the Tanner's house looking for Apostle Peter, okay, who was of the circumcision. So you see how key these things get. We dig deep inside of it. It says, and therefore, and get thee down and go with them, doubting nothing. He had to be reassured to doubt nothing, because this is why we went into the word vessel, because it's dealing with men as a whole, or men and women. But you get my point. The Israelites, foreigners, the Israelite Gentiles, heathens, however you want to call them, okay? The Greek-speaking Jews, because some of them spoke Greek, all right? Those that were not keeping the law and the ways of that the Jews in Judea were doing, okay? Who have been called the uncircumcision. It says, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Verse 21 says, then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius and said, behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is this cause wherefore ye are come? I'm the one you're looking for. So what do you come? What's your business? State your purpose. Verse 22 says, and they said, Cornelius, the centurion, a just man. Look, it says devout man up above. It says a just man. Let's get the word just. Check my ticker here. All right, we good. Just, righteous, observing divine laws. It says that he was pious. All right, meaning he was very religious. And he prayed to the Most High always. He prayed to Yahweh, man. Okay? Come on now. You see what we're dealing with? Let's see what else is in here. In a wise sense, upright, righteous, virtuous, keeping the commandments of the Most High, of those who seem to themselves to be righteous, who pride themselves to be righteous, who pride themselves in their virtues, whether real or imagined. I don't know about the last portion there. Innocent, faultless, guiltless. used of him whose way of thinking, feeling, and acting is wholly conformed to the will of the Most High. That's that holy conversation the scriptures talk about, and who therefore needs no rectification in the heart or life. Approved or acceptable by the Most High. Beautiful. In a narrow sense, rendering to each his due. Actually, I don't think we need that one. Yeah, we don't really need that one. So let's go back. So a just man, a devout man, a just man. No, this wasn't an Edomite. You know for a fact this was not an Edomite, man. It says a just man and one that feared the Most High. Call back to Job 21 we read, right? And of good report among all the nation of the Jews. Because remember, he gave alms. Okay, so he was obviously, a well-to-do man who was very generous. Okay. It says among all the nation of the Jews. Because remember, he was stationed in Caesarea Philippi. All right. He wasn't back in Italy. Okay. He was of the Italian band of the Roman army, but he was stationed in Caesarea Philippi. Okay. So we had Israelites that obviously knew about this man because he probably lived in an area where there was probably nothing but Israelites, or at least mostly. It says, and of good report among all the nation of the